Hi, I would like to welcome you to our second webinar on startups in Canada. Today we have with us renowned serial entrepreneur Ms. Ankita Sharma, the founder of Filler, an AI-powered virtual assistant for attorneys, realtors, and mortgage advisors focusing on the Canadian real estate market. Ms. Ankita will be sharing her experience as an entrepreneur and will help educate and motivate upcoming innovators in Canada and globally. Without much ado, I would like to start our session by asking Ms. Ankita our first question. What exactly is Filler and what sort of services does it provide? It would be really helpful if you could give an introduction to our listeners.
Absolutely. So just to correct you a little bit there, so it's Filer. It's get mispronounced quite a lot, but I think it's picking on, at least not in North America. That's good. So Filer is an automated platform. It's an AI-powered platform that streamlines the property registration process, which is known in India, or the real estate closing process in North America. It streamlines the process for home buyers and lawyers. So anytime when someone buys, sells home, it goes through a lawyer for property registration. So we basically automate that process for the home buyers and lawyers.
Okay, thank you so much for introducing us. I really like the way you have word played with the word use of the word filer because it helps automate the real estate process. And well, it does contain a lot of filing. So, well, I'm really happy that you were able to you think such innovatively. So, how exactly did you come up with the idea of filer?
So it was 2 years in the making. I went through a home buying purchase myself. Me and my husband, we bought our first home in 2020. And what ended up happening is that we had a lot of registration issues. There were a lot of back and forth on the email. I ended up sending my credit card details on someone's email address, which was a bit like, I was a bit shaken about it for many months. And then when we finally got the registration document, which is the deed of the property, my husband's name was misspelled. So I was not surprised because the entire process was so chaotic. There were so many emails that were exchanged between me and the person who was like doing the registration from the lawyer's office. It was evident that the process is not streamlined. That leads to inefficiencies. There were security gaps. And then soon after, when I joined a law firm as a marketing director, I realized that this process is inconvenient for the home buyers, but it's also not very productive for the law firms, because then they are responsible for managing all these documentation. There's a security or compliance issue that they have to deal with if the documents, there's a fraud that gets detected on a land transfer process. Sorry, my light is a bit flickering. I don't know what happened there. Can you see it?
Yeah, but I'm sure that because you're enlightening us so much with your knowledge and your experience, so a light definitely has to keep flickering.
Okay, let's make it part of the process. So I was talking about the real estate closing process at the lawyer's office. So I was basically responsible for delivering, building a brand. And then the constant feedback I would get was regarding customer experience. So I would not be able to get positive reviews because customers were not happy. And that impacts the brand's growth. So if your clients are not happy, you cannot generate a lot of revenue. You cannot grow after certain points. You can rely on certain partnerships, but eventually at the end of the day, you have to serve your clients. And that's when it occurred to me that there's an actual business case. If it's a process, if it's a problem that doesn't work for the home buyers and it doesn't work for the business, that means it's a genuine problem that should be solved. So that's when I started to work on how can we solve this problem? We know the process is not accurate. So it started with building client intake and then basically integrating one step after the other in the home buying process. And that's when we decided to automate the entire process, integrate a couple of systems to make the virtual closing or virtual property registration a seamless process for the lawyer.
Well, this is quite amazing the way you were able to take a real life experience you had and convert it into a business. That is something I feel that will motivate a lot of upcoming innovators to help and develop and think more positively and help improving the human beings daily life in such a way, like you can take up small things, and by improving and working on it, you can actually revolutionize an entire system. And so kudos to you and your innovative thought process. So considering that filer will help streamline the process of client intake for real estate lawyers, what is your opinion on the relevance of technology and AI in revolutionizing the legal practice as we know it?
There's a huge potential for technology and AI for the industry. Legal industry is not known for being the most tech forward. Like, when it comes to law, usually the technology trends set in the last. What has changed in the last couple of years, which makes me a lot more optimistic about launching such kind of technology and services for the legal industry, is because pandemic has changed a lot. It has brought the vulnerability in the system, at the very front of your daily experiences. In pandemic, we realized that we need virtual systems. If a person don't want to leave their house, they should be able to close the property remotely. There was some bylaws that were changed to basically facilitate that, and that will become part of the law. And so virtual services is one that is a game changer. People would need to continue using virtual services, and the legal service providers need to catch up on the trend. Second is the lack of young talent joining the industry. So there are not many young people joining the industry nowadays. Believe it or not, legal profession is a tough profession. It requires a lot of years of commitment to the profession. Now a lot of job opportunities have come up in the gig economy, so the profession is kind of suffering a little bit. And that's where I feel technology can basically bridge the gap. You can have AI automation that can basically take your manual tedious work that lawyers had to do, and it can be done by a machine. And what lawyers are it can basically power the entire legal profession to do more creative or more empathetic work, which is what I think lawyers should be doing. More creative work, more work that requires their insights than just copy pasting some information from template 1 to template 2. There are a lot of legal startups that have come up which are automating document generation or contract drafting. So it requires it basically reduces so much time from the lawyers or legal professionals' time, which is most of the time it's it could be copy pasting, and then you're coming in to review it. So when it comes to doing mundane work, I think technology and AI should take over. And when it comes to doing intelligent, insightful work, lawyers will always be the forefront of it, right? It's you cannot replace those nuances of legal system with a machine. Maybe someday, but not today.
Well, definitely. I believe that, like with the computers, when initially computers came, people used to think that eventually jobs will, phase out because with the upcoming computer technology, the technology will take over and people won't be able to get jobs and it will lead to mass unemployment. But I believe that the IT industry globally has created so many jobs. And similarly, I think, especially with the upcoming chat GPT and the entire debate around it, I think that we will have a lot more opportunities with the coming of AI. And definitely, like you said, that AI will definitely help revolutionize the technology and will help improve the legal system in a lot of ways, especially in the I've seen that as you discussed about contracts, that often a lot of points may get missed out while we are drafting contracts, no matter how expert a lawyer is. And well, AI does help a lot. I mean, like for me also, when I'm drafting a lot of contracts, sometimes I may miss out on certain words, and well, I use Google search and ensure that the contract is uniform. So well, yeah, you are quite correct and I agree with you. I believe that you have come from a different market. You came from India and you migrated to Canada, and you started from the base level, like or from the ground level, and you rose up and built something. So, as an entrepreneur, what do you think as the difference between India and Canada in terms of legal compliance and, like from your global exposure? Do you think Canada can be a little more stringent, or like what exactly should people take care about when they're entering a foreign market or the Canadian market?
I think the rule of thumb is that if anytime you're entering a new market, study the culture, but also study the legal system. When I moved from India, my background was digital marketing. So taking example of the castle and then the can span compliance things, that in India it's not being followed a lot. The opt-in for email marketing is not followed strictly, but when it comes to Canada and US, it is followed strictly. People, like even smaller companies, are taking care of it from day one. It's not that okay, we'll address it, it's a risk, and we'll address it when the time comes. Here it's more of a proactive approach than a retroactive approach. I joined a company called it was a fintech, and I remember it was so strict that every marketing copy that I was writing, even if I'm writing one sentence, if it doesn't state the terms and condition, if it's like a slightly it could be interpreted as misleading, it was taken down immediately. It would we had a very strict compliance review process. So it's not that a marketer or like a content writer thought of a copy and published it on the website and go through the entire process of being reviewed by a compliance or the legal team before it gets published on the website. So in that way, the process is longer, but then at the same time, it's safer, because then you're communicating with intention. It's not a clickbait. So that way, that's good. And it's anytime someone is entering a new market, I think they need to be mindful of what the tolerance of that industry is, of that country is.
Well, definitely. I believe that this is quite important that whenever you enter a new market, you have to check that you are in compliance with the laws. And well, definitely, you have to also integrate into the culture, because if you don't, you won't be able to function properly. Well, aside from this, do you think that the Canadian market is different in terms of business as compared to other countries globally? And is there any suggestion you would have for any person who wants to enter the Canadian market from a business perspective?
I would say Canadian market is definitely different. It's even different from the US. You would call it whether it's the culture or it's the population. It's very, I would say it's very conservative. So anyone who is entering into the market, I think, needs to factor that in, that you need to culturally adopt, and you need to basically play in those expectations or play in those boundaries. If someone is trying to grow into the market, I think the first step would look into partnership or collaboration, to basically for you to understand how the market operates, instead of trying to basically start from scratch.
Well, definitely. I think that is quite a good idea, because initially, I think people need to gain trust of their customers and people in general before you're actually able to sell anything. And I think this will help quite a lot of people, especially in Canada, where people are trying to enter using the startup visa program and other immigration programs through the mode of business. And I think your input is quite helpful for them. Do you have any other ideas or suggestions you would like to share with generally business owners and entrepreneurs across Canada based on your
I
experience?
think for any business or for any entrepreneur, I would say we we have our own expertise, but at the same time, we need more than our own expertise. We need a team. We need a group of people striving towards the same goal. So I'd say never shy away from asking for help. So the worst answer you can get is when you're reaching out for help or partnership or no opportunity is no, is not yet, right? And then if you basically prove your worth, and then you can go back again and try. So my advice would be never shy away from asking for help.
So, just adding on to this answer, do you think the failures are a part of entrepreneurship? And based on your own real life experiences, I'm sure you must, knowing you that you are a serial entrepreneur, you've started a number of businesses, and I'm sure they must have gone in different directions with their own ups and downs. So, if you could tell us more based on your real life, that how you think that in the course of entrepreneurship, a business may fail or it may grow, and how you have to, deal with the ups and downs.
So failures are definitely part of entrepreneurship or any life, right? The thing is that with entrepreneurship, you're playing more games. So when you're
Yes,
playing more games, you would lose more, but you would also win more. So that's the
definitely.
upside of. when we are in a job or something else which doesn't require us to be on the court or be in the game so much, we can say like, oh, I lost only once in a lifetime. But then because you only played 2 games. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're playing 365 games or maybe more games every year. So win and lose is part of it. It's just failure is not a failure until you basically like, give up and like quit the game. There's something else. There's the new opportunity that opens up every time you fail. You would feel bad one day, may sulk in your bed, eat ice cream, watch some nonsense YouTube videos, but then you're back at it the next day because you believe in the product or you believe in the problem or you believe in something that you're doing, that there's an actual value out there. It basically like getting out of your head and actually doing it.
Definitely, I completely agree with you because even in the legal profession, when I started my firm, I went through a lot of ups and downs. Some months it would be really amazing, and some months I would just think of like just shutting everything down and going on a vacation. So, well, yeah, I think it is quite enlightening what you've just said. And I would like to thank you for taking out your valuable time for today's session. I will hope to have you further on further webinars as well. As you are a serial entrepreneur, I'm sure you will also have a lot of other innovative ideas, and I will have you here to share more about them and help promote and also to inculcate the idea of entrepreneurship and starting your own startup among various listeners, not only in Canada but on a global level. And I would really, really like to thank you for coming and sharing your experience and your journey with us. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and I'll be back any day you want me to
Thank you so much.
chatting with you.